Surprise 2025, everybody. I know we lied in our odds and end episode yesterday. We said this is going to be the last thing you heard of us until episode 15 came out. Well, we're going to do this instead.
Just proves that they can't trust us.
Really, it's true.
It's their own fault.
I mean, look, they've stuck with us for over 6 months at this point.
This is insane. I will always say this, and everyone will hear it. I still can't believe we're doing this thing. But then again, like you said, most of these podcasts, when they start up, they all last for a little bit, and then they drop off. We've passed that home, so...
Yeah. I think the fact that my phone is now full of designers and publishers, and that I'm having these conversations, that I am developing friendships out of this that isn't just, hey, we've got a game coming out, can you do this within this time frame? But legitimately, I sent a text message to a designer not that long ago. I was like, I really am looking forward to X, Y, and Z thing. And the response back is, man, we need a game together more because clearly we like the same games. And I invited them to play Twilight Imperium with us this year, and hopefully they will.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Right?
Yeah, I've done the same thing because, of course, on my end, I'm one of the storytellers. And so I sat there and went, you know what, let me just go ahead and send this out. And I've gotten a response back. And they're like, hey, our distribution center is up on backup orders, but it's on its way. And
That's awesome.
This is insane. I mean, teenage Scott, who wanted to be in gaming back when he was in high school, is losing his mind right now. Because I know this age of Scott, which is much older, is also losing his mind.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is wild.
Gen Con is going to be a very different... last Gen Con was a different experience. This is going to be insane.
This one's going to be a whole nother level. It's going to be wild.
Whole nother level.
So, unless they have read the episode title, which frankly they should have if they clicked on this, but if you didn't and you're just that ooh, more bored all the time, hey, thanks, Bat Family.
We love that.
We are hitting you with our top 10 games of all time for the prior year. Yep. When we did our supplemental top 10 as part of our episode 0, that was our top 10 at that point. So for me, that was my top 10 for 2024 as based off the data generated in 2023. For me, because I've already completed my full top 100, it is going to be the same deal. This is my top 10 for 2025 based on the data gathered in 24.
And this for me is completely new because I'm always like, ooh, shiny. I mean, that was always the joke when we first started this was I'm just the ooh, shiny, I'm the consumer. And now I'm going, oh, I've got opinions and I've got information now that I didn't have before, and I'm really looking at things.
We were talking the other day, and you're like, hey, what's that board game tracking app you use? Because I want to start doing this stuff. It's like, well, that's BG Stats. We're not sponsored by them. They're great. Download it. I use it constantly.
Yeah, I'll probably download it and pay for it when I get paid.
Yeah. But still,
a couple bucks. It's not bad.
It's a cool thing that you are now entering your data nerd portion of the board gaming hobby.
I love being a data nerd. I love sitting there and looking at information. Usually it's numbers and figures. I'm a math person.
Yeah.
This is different. And especially going into a hobby.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't think I'd get into this. And then because I know this list is going to blow your mind, especially from where we started 6 months ago.
Yeah. Mine is, there's going to be a couple of fun things on mine. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
It'll be very interesting.
This is going to be fun.
We talk a lot about what our process was and what we were thinking of. So if you would like to skip past all that and just get right into the meat of the list, the time code you're looking for is 1919. Or you can simply jump to Scott number 10 as a chapter title. So before we actually get into the list, let's just have a little bit of a preamble of how we set this up. I think it makes sense to talk about our process, what can make the list, that type of thing. So first things first, what was your process?
So my process was I looked at our episode 0 and I wrote those games down. And I marked which ones I'd played over the course of the 6 months, over the course of the year. Looked at those. And then I went through the some 400 titles that I've got on my Board Game Geek account and ones that I didn't have ranked. I ranked them, and then I went through the rest of the games that I had ranked. I'm like, does this still hold weight at this level? And shifted them. And then I went through all of the games that we have talked about between your games and my games, because these are the things that we've played mostly, not so much the ones we just kind of mentioned here and there.
I am crazy enough that through the editing process, we have our master sheet of our episodes and our future plan and everything. Within that, is every game that we talked about and every single game we have mentioned.
Yeah.
So, because why not have that
Why
data
not
as
have
well?
that? Yeah. So I went through everything you talked about, everything I talked about, and I rated them all. So that added into the list of games. And once I had rated everything, I looked at the 10s, went, okay, and then put them in. That's when I put my fine tune. And then there was some spaces, and I looked at my 9s, and I fine tuned.
Sure.
And there we are. Because, I mean, I only have 400 games that I'm looking at, and I'm sure you look at a lot more.
Well, yes and no.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you look at my BGG account, I have a couple thousand games rated on there.
Okay.
And I have erased ratings from games that it's been so long that, and if I don't remember why I rated them or I don't have as strong of an opinion anymore, I'll actually wipe out rankings. So it's not everything I've ever played, but it is the vast majority. When I am looking at how I do this, and I mentioned it earlier, my top 100. If you are curious to read this year's top 100, it is going to be available in the episode notes, the link to that. I have data that goes all the way back to 2019 for this.
Okay.
And what I do when I set up what is allowable is I will use PubMeeple, which is an online ranking tool that you are able to throw in a full list of whatever. You can do beverages or board games or any variety of things. Board Game Hobby loves using it. And essentially, it just gives you a whole series of this or that choices as far as what you put in for your criterion. So I will go through and I will generate my list. And I guess I'll just bleed into the next question as I explain this.
Yeah.
If you are part of the prior year's top 125, because I actually keep that data, you have an automatic in to be ranked. Then I will go through and I am able to pull from all of my rankings anything that I rank from 7 to 10 and anything that I think could potentially end up within my top 100, I will leave in. So I will prune it because I know certain games I give it a 7. It's not going to make the top 100. But I firmly and fully believe that a game that I rate a 7, I can enjoy more than a game that I rate a 10. For whatever reasons, and there may be a variety of things. If you're curious, again, read about it on Board Game Geek. Then I will go through, and this year I actually did something even a little further than that, and I looked at the games that I rank a 4 and a 5 as well, just to see if anything would make it in. Nothing did. Nothing lower than a 7 made it in.
Okay.
And then I went through and just ranked everything. That spit out my final list, ran it again, made sure that everything was essentially the same, and it basically was. If there was, a movement of one or two things, whatever, it didn't really matter. And then I would go through and fine-tooth comb where I think it should be changed.
Right.
I actually maintain multiple Excel spreadsheets about all this stuff, one of which is a year over year, so I'm able to keep the trend lines and all that stuff. But this year, I think I only manually adjusted like 2 things, which is the smallest amount I've ever manually adjusted because that is how confident I felt with the rankings as I looked at it. So that is what my process is. As far as what makes it allowable in for my list, I have to have physical access to it. So either I own it or somebody in my game group does. Mm-hmm. I've had to have played it physically within at least 2 years.
Okay.
And if it is some kind of new version or an addition change, whatever, I only keep one edition of something in. Okay. So I'll tell you, Betrayal at House on the Hill is not in my top 10. It is my top 100. I'm very specifically talking about second edition there. When you look at something like Ex Libris, I actually picked the second edition over the first one because the production's better, but I will play either one. Doesn't really matter.
Gotcha.
So in most cases, the actual edition doesn't really matter, but every once in a while, I will call it like I like this version of this game.
Okay.
And I will say everything in my top 10 I have played within the last 6 months.
Yeah, so everything that's in my top 10 I have played within the last 6 months. Some things that could have gotten into the top 10 definitely were a thing that I wanted to play more. It does have to be either a game I own or a game that I know I could have very easy access to, so I have to either contact you or I'm going down to Fort Wayne to play with my friends down there. Mm-hmm. And honestly, some of the things, I think if I would go into once I start really going into this, if I start expanding from my top, because technically I have 15 technically, if I look at what my little list is here. If I want to expand out, then I'll refine that, how far I want to go out with it, because yeah, like I said, I went through like 300 titles. So I'm like, how do I want to do 100? Because I know some of these that'll be in my 100. I probably haven't played in a while. So it's like, is this in my list just because of nostalgia? And, I'll adjust from there.
That's fair. I know I went to 100 back in 2019 because I had played over 1,000 games at that point, and I realized I could reasonably do that big of a list. And what's funny is I actually kind of disown most of the list from 2019 and 2020 because I just didn't do it with anywhere near the precision and kind of data-minded forwardness that I have now. There were some games on that 2019 list I'm like, I need to fill out 100.
Okay.
That is certainly not the case now.
Yeah, it might be one of those things that probably, since we're going to be doing this so much, that I will just start going through and being like, okay, here's my 100. Ugh. Which is insane for me to sit there and think about. But then again, I've been playing in this gaming sphere since 1997 is when I really started getting really big into board games. So there's obviously games that I've played. I don't even remember what the name of them are, so they'll never be on that list.
Yep.
So be interesting.
So obviously the answer to this next question is, well, we were making an episode about it, but if you remove the content creator aspect of it, why'd you make the list? Would you want to make a top 10 or a 25 or 50 or 100, anything like that?
Well, I think when anyone makes a list, you sit there and make a list because you want to see how you've matured as a gamer, how you've changed as a gamer. I mean, think about it when you look at stats for a sports team. You can see what and where and why when you're like, oh, the Colts were here this season, and then we got this really good quarterback, and we got this really good kicker, and we changed our defensive line, and now we're here. That's the same thing with games. It's like, okay, oh, why did this game do so well? Okay, because I was in this headspace. You know, you can see who you were as a person at that period of time, but also you get to see what the market was at that time. I'm looking at my top 10 going, yeah, I can see some of these probably won't last very long. These will fall off of the top 10. Will they stay in my top 100? Most definitely, because of I know what I have staying it back at home. But it's kind of neat to see how I've changed as a gamer, even how I've changed as a gamer in 6 months.
Yeah. It was interesting when you reached out to me, just getting the preamble of the episode and all the kind of pre-work we do set up, where you said your list is significantly different than it was 6 months ago because you put a lot more thought into it. And you can't believe that that was your prior list and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, no, those were the games that you really liked,
right.
And at the time that was the mindset you had.
Well,
I've just been doing this for this long,
right, and that was the whole thing. Is I've never ever. I'm always one of those to be like, oh my god, that's a great game. I can go into any game store, and if I hear people talking, and I'm like, man, I wonder if this is a really good game. I have no problem in any city in this entire continent and going, that is a really good game. You are going to extremely like it. Warning, make sure you don't do this because you will screw your game up if you do it.
I've had many conversations with people in a Target and Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. It's just the amount of like, okay, bold of you to talk to me. And I'm like, sorry, but I don't care also.
We're board gamers. We want to talk.
Right. I mean, hi, I go spend a 4-day weekend with 70,000 of my closest friends to go play board games. Every year.
Yep. I will say when I made this list, when I made the first one in 2019, it was just because I had watched enough other content creators. We generally try and not name drop them specifically, but I will say it was a ton of Dice Tower because at that point, that's really who was doing top 100s.
Right.
And I thought, maybe I could do this. And then I just did it for my own for next few years. And I found that I really love doing it because I do like watching that trend of, why did this move? Why did this do something? In fact, I will tell you one game that it has somehow never made my top 10, but Gears of War went from 15 to 27 to 15 to 16 to 15 back to 16 this year.
Wow.
Talk about incredibly steady for a game that I love. And one that I have played not insignificantly even this year. So being able to see something like that really is fun for me of, wow, I really do like some of these games. And when we were talking about our list 6 months ago, I told you Owari most likely would not make my top 10.
Right.
And I will spoil and say it is number 12 this year.
Really?
It did get pushed out. It did not fall anywhere near as far as I was expecting it to.
Were you thinking in the high teens?
I was thinking high teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
But I've played it enough and I still love it. And even when stacking everything next to each other and doing those pub-meable back and forths, only 11 games did I pick over it.
Wow. You might be surprised. Probably not. Owari did not make my top 100.
But did it make your top 1,000?
I'm going to just say no because I'm going to make up games so it doesn't even land in the top 1,000. But it did rank higher than Endless Winter.
Number 99.
No. Awari is like one spot above Endless Winter.
I know, but I'm saying for me, Endless Winter made the list this year
Are you
at 99.
kidding me? Oh, I gotta reevaluate our friendship. But no, I know you really did. You did enjoy that game, and I can understand why it hit your top 100.
So, final note before we move in. How often are you going to reevaluate and or readjust your list? I will say that I do my list once a year. It takes a not insignificant amount of time. I had insomnia the other night because baby got me up and I was up for 4 hours in the middle of the night. So I just did all the rankings then. So whenever I am looking at a game, I'm like, oh, this is a great game. I really enjoy this. Like, I like this and compare it, whatever. I only adjust my list when this list releases. So my number one will be my number one for the rest of the year. Even if it may change or alter, it will not be until I readjust at the end of the year of any of these numbers changing.
I would have probably say the exact same. As we get to play things in 2025, especially when they're new, that's when I will give them a ranking. And then when it's, first week of December, that's probably when I will sit there and I will go through my list to make sure that everything that I've played is on that list somewhere, and then go, okay, here we go.
Yep.
It's time for the shuffle. Look at my 10s. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly probably, because knowing me, I'm probably going to have to readjust how I do my 10, 9s, 8, 7s. I'll have to be more particular as I go in because I don't want to have 30 10s.
If that's what you have, that's what you have.
Right.
But that is one of the reasons why I don't do half or quarter points. Mm-hmm. I have a strict 10-point scale because it allows me the flexibility of these are all my 8s, and I can freely weight them how I feel amongst themselves. But it is that general idea of this is what an 8 game is for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to worry about, it's an 8.1 right now, and in a month it'll be an 8.4, and then I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
I just deal with the strict whole numbers, and it makes my life infinitely easier.
Yeah, because I will. I'll look at all my 10s, and I'll be able to sit there and be like, yep, this is. When I started looking at my 10s, I went, yeah, these are the ones. How it got bumped up or got bumped down was how visceral of a feeling did it make me want to play the game. So it's like, so my number one, if someone said, hey, Scott, we're playing blah, 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 are you in? As long as it's feasible, I'm going.
Just for the data nerd in you. And because if people are sitting there doing whatever. I have, for board game ratings, I have 1,361. I have played over, like I said, over 2,000.
Yeah.
Across my everything, I have something like 1,900 registered. But on the whole, I am looking at a pool of about 1,400 ratings. Even though I have 74 10s broken across base games and expansions, my average rating is 6.57. Those 74 ratings only constitute 5% of what I rate. So if I have 30 10s, that's great. But on the sheer volume of what I have played, it still represents an incredibly small fraction.
Currently, I have 293 ratings, and I'm currently at a 6.4.
Nice.
I only have 16 games at 10s. But I know part of those are like blah, 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 and then the second iteration.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, yes, this is just as solid as that one. But I do know I have a couple of them that are like, yeah, this one's not as good as that one, so it's a 9.
Yeah. Any other notes or anything that you want to say before we move into the list?
It was actually a really fun process, and actually it was really easy. I think being able to use the website, take your notes, guys. Like, really, the idea is if you want to, like, be knowledgeable, take notes. I enjoyed this process, and I can't wait. This will be fun.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because, the first 2 years I did it, I didn't even post the list to BGG. My first list didn't show up till 2021 on there.
Really?
Really.
Oh, so you just kind of had it in your own computer
Just did it for myself. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I'm excited to hear what your list is. Mm-hmm. Let's jump into it.
Sounds good.
So, Scott, let's get this thing kicked off. What is your number 10?
My number 10 is a game I've played a ton. I talk about it all the time. It is my I need to relax, sit at home, hit game. It is Cartographers. There is nothing like Cartographers to me. It is my solo game. Oh, I will state, there is another solo game that is higher up on my list.
I think I know what it is.
But it is my solo game that I just because I like maps. It feeds into my D&D. I can always sit there and look at a map that I've created, whether it's when I'm playing on Board Game Arena or if I'm staying at home. Because I'll pull out my markers when I'm at home, and I will just sit there and have that nice pixelated map, and I can already start thinking about that area. So it gets me into the gaming space and my storytelling space.
Cartographers was not on your earlier list.
No.
And we've talked about it on the pod before. It's not one I enjoy.
Correct.
It is one that I liked solo more than multiplayer, but it just did not trip it over for me.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel it is much better solo than it is with groups. Just because there is no take that aspect to it. It completely eliminates it because you literally, when the monsters attack, it tells you where they're going to go. And you just follow those instructions. And like, I enjoy the heroes. I enjoy all the special map packs. I have it all. I need to get a bigger box just so I can put it all in one box because currently it's in 2 baggies and 2 boxes.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my number 10. And that is Cartographers. That's Thunderworks Games, of course.
Nice. So my number 10, this is the first time that my number 10 has hit the list at
this level?
My number 10 came onto the list as number 6 in 2019, and it has not been back in the top 10 until this year.
Oh, okay.
You just mentioned that Cartographers is comfort food to you. It's one that you can just zen out with and just enjoy. And people are going to say that I'm crazy when I mention this, but viticulture is the same way for me. I like viticulture on its own. I like it with Tuscany. I like it with Viticulture World. But if I want to just feel like I have slipped into that warm bath of a game, regardless of the player count, it's viticulture. It is worker placement. It is the game that started Stonemaier off. It is one of the very important games that got me loving Stonemaier stuff. And I mean, it's also one of the few games that I can sit here and say that I am very good at as well. I lose, but I don't lose very often. And if you've listened to the podcast long enough, you know that I don't really care about that. That's not something I pay attention to, but I just really like the game and I'm surprisingly good at it. I have somewhat of a reputation amongst certain people of taking me down as a big deal.
I enjoy Viticulture. It's a nice game. I have other worker placements that I would rather play, but Viticulture is very nice. Number 9 is another one that wasn't on my list from 6 months ago. And the reason why it came up onto my list was because every time I play Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest, I have an absolutely fantastic time. Again, this is one of those things of every time I play this game, I want to play it more. It's fun. The characters are so creative. Each of their abilities. I mean, yes, it's a reskin, but it's a better reskin.
It's a full redevelopment.
Yeah, it was, and it's so good. 2 sides of a map. In fact, there's even the cards that you get to change out certain things. I mean, people go get it. Just go get the game. You'll understand why it's such a good game. I know it's in your top 100. And if it's not up higher on this list, I will be shocked because my guess is it's 1 through 6. Yeah, this is what's so funny. Okay, just so y'all know, he and I are both DMs, so we are really good with our poker face. So he's not giving anything, I'm not giving anything. There's no clues as to what's going on.
Yeah, we did not discuss our lists ahead of time at all.
And in fact, we have things blocking our papers. So like, I would have to lean and like really stretch to be able to see what you have written down.
And read my tiny handwriting. I have clear handwriting. It's just small.
Well, but upside down?
Yeah.
No. But yeah, no, I really do. I really enjoy Libertalia. And when I was going through my list, it is a 9 on my BGG. And out of all my 9s, I was like, yeah, this needs to be into my top 10.
My number 9, this is the lowest it has ever been. This is one of the very few games that has been on the list since 2019. And it is now in at number 9. It has spent most of its existence as my number 4. When you're talking about the worker placement games that you would rather play, Raiders of the North Sea is so stinking good. I just spent money in the reprint Kickstarter to finally get a hold of that playmat because I love everything this game does. It is very good as a base game. You put in the 2 expansions, and it is as close to perfect as I think Garphill has ever designed a game. The full game as a worker placement is essentially a sandbox of, okay, you don't want to do the raiding? That's fine. You can go do the questing. You can go after the Jarls. You can go after the Valkyrie. You can get everything and hand stuff in for your Jarl in your village. There's so many ways to approach and explore this game, and it is all run around what I have to say is the best worker placement system, and one that I have never seen replicated, because on your turn, you will place a worker that is one of 3 colors, and you will take its effect. And depending on the color, that depends on the strength that you're going to take it at. And then you will pull off a completely different worker from somewhere else on the board, and you will take that action at whatever that strength is. So you are both setting up your next turn as well as freeing up a space for another player to go to, potentially cutting you off. And that balance of, I need the actions in reverse order of where I'm able to take them. How can I pivot around this? It has a really great Viking theme on it where you are going and you are raiding and doing everything that entails. It's just one that I cannot help but love every single time I play it. It does have the Raiders of Scythia rework. I think that is the significantly inferior version of the game. This is one of those moments where I actually very specifically am calling out Raiders of the North Sea. I think the art is significantly better. I think the vibrancy of the colors and the ease of the symbology is much better here. And frankly, the board layout is just so much easier to read. I really, really like Raiders of the North Sea. And despite it being a 9-year-old game, 10 years this summer, still my number 9.
I've played it a couple times. It's a good game. I really do enjoy it, but not enough that I can expunge on that. So,
like I said, I've played all these within the last 6 months,
right?
And I just want to play it more often than I do. Even
Hence
when I
why
look
it dropped
at
3 points,
exactly, and that is really there's a bit of a push as. So, I haven't played enough, and the other stuff is just that strong.
Just that much stronger.
Yeah.
I wondered. Yeah. Because I was like, I probably should be writing this stuff down so I can try to figure out what that 11 is.
That's funny.
It's number 8. This'll be my first newest game of the year.
Okay.
It is also my other solo game of the year. You should know what this is.
This is for Northwood.
This is for Northwood. It is Trick Taking. It is phenomenal. You sat there like, hey, you should check out this game. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And it happened to be on BGA. It's in its beta form on BGA. And I sat there and I went, oh, this is good. And then I ordered it and continued to play it on BGA. And now I play my copy at home and it on the arena when I am not at home. So I dig it. But, so good. And the little storyline that they have you're going through, you're started somewhere and you get these are the little guys you use. And I'm just like, this is so good. And for a solo trick-taking game,
shouldn't work.
Should not work at all.
Hit my list at number 90.
Beautiful.
Yep.
But yeah, and it was one of those I was like looking at everything because again, I'm just now starting to do this whole, hey, the score stuff. Yeah, this is a 9.
For the amount of content that is in that teeny weeny little box, I wish it wasn't a slider box. That's my only annoyance with it.
Yeah.
If it was like a flap, like a magnetic flap, I'd like
True,
that
I could
more.
see that.
But now we're just nitpicking.
Right.
It is just phenomenal. It shouldn't work.
No, and the whole thing is the company doesn't even have to give us an expansion. They can just sit there and say, "Hey, here for $5, here's another storyline. Here's another set of scenarios."
Yeah.
Or they can just say, "Hey, here's a PDF. Pay us $2, print it, and keep us going." And I would totally do it. It's so much fun.
It's really great for literally a deck of cards, no tokens, nothing else. It is really an impressive feat of design.
Yeah, love it.
My number 8 came onto the list in 2021 at number 12.
Okay.
It bounced to 10, was forced out into 11 last year, and is now my number 8. This is the reason why I love IV Studios. This is Moonrakers. So this is...
I almost thought you were going to say Veiled Fate.
No. Moonrakers is my highest rated deck builder in my top 100. I love what it does. In episode 13, we were talking about Dominion and being just deck building cleanly and doing everything else. But we also mentioned that idea of we are kind of in this deck building renaissance of deck building plus. And this is deck building plus negotiation. And when you add in the amazing Luminor, which is a free app that they are still updating with all the new cards and everything they've done, you can turn it co-op. So if you don't like direct negative negotiation, don't have to do that anymore. It is such a cool game. It is such a neat theme. The artwork is beautiful. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I have a holofoil Bill Bendo just sitting in my office because he's such a cool character within the storyline of Brink Terminal and everything else. If you like deck building, if you like negotiation, if you like feeling like you need to really maximize resources and engine building for combos and trying to hit, maybe I can make this combo work. Maybe I can go after this contract on my own. It's so cool. And then you just have the sheer fact that it is one of the best produced games out there. It is gorgeous on the table. It's going to get people asking, what are you playing? And all the little micro expansions are still releasing for it. I got in Dark Matter not that long ago. I'm very excited to try that. I think I should have Marauders soon. Yeah, this is Moonrakers. It is just a game I'm persistently obsessed with.
Yeah, Ivy Studios does a great job in all their games. Just quality-wise, the look of things all look absolutely amazing. Of course, we got the absolute pleasure of being able to look at Tend before it got completed. We've played Veil Fate. We got to see its expansion that's coming out to backers here soon.
Yep.
I mean, they do good things, and Moonrakers is a great game. I've only ever gotten to play it one time with you, and so it needs to happen more.
It does. It absolutely needs to happen more. And it is one of those that I will play it competitively against you. We can use Nomad. We can play cooperatively with Luminor. We can do it 2 players. We can do it 5 players. I don't care. That game is great.
Yeah, I'm on board. Number 7 was not on my list.
Interesting.
Of the last time we did a list. This one came up onto the list because, 1, I love the theme.
Sure.
2, it's one of those games that brains how my brain brains. And it's not a new game, so because I'm watching the gears go.
Are there cats involved?
Of course there's cats involved because it's Calico.
Yep.
This is, Calico is a 10 for me. This is the first of my 10s.
Sure.
I just love everything about it. I love the pattern building. We've talked about how if you need that one thing and if it doesn't happen, you're just kind of boned. But that doesn't bother me. Honestly, I'm already planning to be boned in the game. Like, I totally understand it. I'm going to go for...
You take that as a feature of the game to plan for, whereas I take it as an error in the game of I feel like it's out of my control. So that definitely is a difference in the way we approach the game. But I was actually expecting this in your top 5.
Things in my top 5 are much better, personally.
Okay.
I love my top 5. When I am playing Calico and I sit there and I choose what my patterns are going to be around my patches, immediately I get excited because I'm like, okay, so I'm going to look for this thing. And as soon as I place that first one down, I know what I'm looking for when it comes to everything else around it. And if it doesn't come up, I'm not scared or worried about it. I guess it's just because it's one of those things of I've worked so much in retail. I'm so used to pivoting when things don't go the way I need them to go.
Very fair.
My brain just, it's like, oh, I didn't get this thing. Okay, we'll try to get it this way. And if I didn't get it this way, so if I can't get both the color and the pattern in that around that patch, I'm going to make sure I get one of them. I have never not gone within a game that I haven't at least got each one of the patches scored. I've had one time where I got all 3 patches scored with both getting the color and patch one time. That's all I needed. I still love the game.
And here's the thing. If you listen to our This or That mini episode on this, this is one that I have strong feelings about.
Yes, we both have strong feelings on.
I still prefer Cascadia.
Right.
But I went through...
And Cascadia is still a great game. It's still in my top 50.
Sure.
Easy.
Calico did not make my top 100.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
But it did survive all the culling I've done. It's still on my shelf back there.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, but it's a good game. And because it is something that is so small and you can just lay it on your lap, essentially... It lives in my solo rotation in a way that I never expected it to.
Right. That solo game is still really good.
Yeah.
It's still really hard, but it's still really good.
My number 7 you have played before. Mm-hmm. I think it has been a long enough time. I would be interested to force you to play it for why did I play that again?
Uh-huh.
And this is also the lowest it's ever been. So it came onto the list in 2021 at number 5. It went up to number 3 the past couple of years and has fallen to number 7 this year. And that's Petrichor.
I'm looking at the list and I'm going, I bet you're going to talk about Petrichor.
It is such a unique game. What other game are you playing as a cloud?
Yeah.
The theme is so interesting because you are doing essentially dual area majorities for what the crops are growing, and if you can get them to grow, which means that so long as there's a scoring phase, and there will always be a scoring phase at the end of the game at either end of round 4 or 6, depending on how you want to play, then whoever has the most water on the soil is probably going to get the most points, but potentially not, depending on the crop. This was one of the games that taught me just how much I love modularity, because it has that array of I can use whatever crops I want to, and I can lay out the pattern whatever I want to. If I'm playing it solo, it's a specific 2x3 to make everything work, but we can set up however we want. We can put in the honeybees and the pollution and everything else and make it into a brutally brain-burning game. Or we can just play it base with a really excellent multi-use cards, and you have that secondary layer of area majority of trying to trigger which seasons are going to happen before any scoring does. There's so much going on. It is intensely flexible, and it just is beautiful on the table. When you are playing with the deluxe edition that I've got with the standing clouds and you have all the water droplets and everything, people come over and look at it because it is so unlike anything else. And I think that is something that I really enjoy in the first place. But when you add in something that just sings to how I play, and what's funny is the first time we played it, you beat me. Mm-hmm. You beat Jason and myself.
Yep.
And it's just one that I love. Petrichor is the reason why I will, at the very least, look at anything Mighty Boards produces because of how strong my reaction still is to that game.
Yeah, Petrichor was a lot of fun to play. I definitely want to play it again. Not on my list right now, yeah,
Sure.
But probably within my top 100, I'm sure.
Really?
I said I only have 200 games right now that I've done, so I mean, it's going to hit there out of all the games that I've currently ranked, but I mean, it'll probably fall off relatively quick as well.
Sure.
But I enjoyed that game.
I will also say it is the game that made me realize how much of my gaming opinions match to Mike DeLisio. So if you like Mike DeLisio on the Dice Tower, you should like my picks fairly often as well. Mine aren't quite as crazy and esoteric and Garfield focused, but generally speaking, like I have stopped him at, I think, 2 different Gen Cons, be like, thank you for telling me about Petrichor. That game's awesome.
That is hysterical.
Number 6, bottom of the top half.
Bottom of the top half. The first iteration of this game is an absolute classic. It has been around for quite some time, and we are currently in the middle of one.
Really?
Ticket to Ride.
This slid from your number 3.
Yeah, went from 3 to 6.
Okay.
One of the reasons why it slid was because I don't get to play it enough.
Sure.
Yes, we're currently playing the Legacy version, but going through all of them, because there is so many Ticket to Rides.
There are a lot.
I weighted them. So like Ticket to Ride, when I first did this 6 months ago, is because it's my heart game.
Sure.
It's one of those heart cornerstone games.
It's like viticulture for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so looking at this and wanting to have an honest, weighted perception about it, because I'm like, okay, if someone says, hey, we're going to play Europe, I'm like, could we play United States instead? I like Europe. Can we play Markland? Yes, I have the... Oh, you want to play Markland or you want to play Germany? Because of Markland, it's got the special cards in it. Germany doesn't. And, which I love that I have the Markland. I love Nordic countries. Nordic countries is one of my favorites. But Nordic countries is only the 3. So, everything had to be weighted differently. And because of that reason, it dropped to 6.
Sure.
Because I'm like, some of them are stronger. Some of them, of course, not as strong. And the fact that, Legacy. It's great. I was talking to other friends and telling them about Legacy, and they're like, is it really that? And I went, yeah.
It is.
I'm like, the things that they've got in there is insane. And I'm like, do you want spoilers? And they're like, yeah, I'm probably not going to buy it. And then I told them what we so far unlocked, and they went, okay, so I guess I'm going to go buy it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
Ticket to Ride has been on my list every year since 2019. The highest it has been is 63. It mostly lives in the 80s. It is currently 91. I generally use it as a placeholder for the Ticket to Ride series, except
Yes.
for Rails and Sales, which is bad.
Horrible.
Super bad.
Which is one of the reasons why I think also it dropped from 3 to 6.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, it's a game that I love. It will never leave my top 100.
Yeah.
I do this thing on my list where I will Hall of Fame a game, where if I haven't played it in 2 years, or if I think that it won't get played enough, or whatever reason, I will essentially stick it after the list and say, hey, this is still a great game. This should be pointed out. I just don't play it. Magic the Gathering was the first game I ever Hall of Famed because I don't play it. But it is so important. It is very important to me, all the things. Ticket to Ride will never get Hall of Famed because it will always be in my top 100.
Right. I just really enjoy it. And the fact that there is so many maps. There's just so many maps and they keep doing it. And the fact of how much I really do enjoy our Wild West that we're dealing with within the Legacy. It honestly, it makes me want them to do Europe. I would play it because of how much we don't know.
A Legacy Europe.
A Legacy Europe because of how much we as Americans don't know European history.
Yeah.
That would be really interesting to learn about.
Especially as mythologized as the laying of all the rail out west was. And it's a long, complex, brutal history,
Yeah.
to put it excessively mildly. But it is interesting that it's there. And I do appreciate that within the rule book, they address that as well as say, here are resources to go learn and understand what this period of history actually was.
Yeah.
And I think that more than anything kept that game alive for me. And it's why other games, there was a specific game that came back onto my top 100 because I realized I was in the rule book for that particular game as well. It's up in the 30s. It's not on this list, but that I would be very interested to see. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. So, hey, Days of Wonder, if you're listening, do it.
All right. My number 6. This has as well been on the list every year since 2019. It has been as high as 2.
Is this Libertalia?
No,
Okay, thank God. I was going to be shocked.
this is Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Okay.
And when
So
we
it actually went up from last time we did this by
it
1.
went up by 1 spot.
Okay.
And that is because I said it before and I hate saying it, but Definitive is just simply the better version. I've been playing that a lot. I have been going through and playing Freedom 5 and loving the theme. I've been going back and listening to the Letters Page podcast, and I thought I knew a lot about Sentinels anyway, and I am just constantly hearing new stuff about all the characters and everything there. Wraith is a much sadder character than I thought she was. She's not just Batman. There's a lot more going on with her.
Ooh.
I legitimately tried to shove this up into the top 5 again, and it just bounced off. But playing it again this year and doing all the things that I just talked about, I'm constantly wanting to play it. I love the world. I don't know that I would ever necessarily want to do the Sentinels RPG just because I don't have time to do TTRPGs, but it's a great game. It's a great system with great characters, and it's why Freedom 5 can have as many issues as it does, and I still love it as much as I do. It's Sentinels of the Multiverse. I explained it in much more detail when we did this list 6 months ago, but I can't imagine it will ever leave my top 10. It hasn't since 2012, whenever the first time I played it was.
It's in the amorphous blob of 11 through 15. I've loved every... The only thing I have not played of my Sentinels of the Multiverse is Oblivion.
It's tough.
Because...
It's long and it's brutal.
And that's the reason why. It's because I just don't have the time,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like 4 hours.
Yeah. That being said, if Mark, if you went, hey, Scott, you know that thing that you haven't played yet? And I'd be like, man, yeah.
Jason and Mike still ask me, when are we playing Oblivion again?
Really?
The last time we played Oblivion was pre-COVID. It's just so long.
Yeah.
But honestly, I am back at the point where if I could have a regular night of just Sentinels, I would.
I mean, could.
I have made the comment about Glenmore 2 in the past of if I can only keep one game, it might be Glenmore 2. If I can only keep one game in my collection, Sentinels.
That's a big claim.
There's so much to it.
There really is.
I can play it solo. I can play it in scenario modes. I can play it with a whole bunch of friends. I can just run the villain for other people to play it. When people have learned the game, I've just run the Ennead for them. There's so many ways for me to approach the game. It has so much nostalgia, so many memories, and so many characters that I love. Yeah, I think at this point, Sentinels has taken over Glenmore in that position of if I can only keep one game in my collection, it's Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Hey, Bat Family. Scott here. Join me and my friends for a weekly live play tabletop storytelling game on Theater Geeks Twitch channel. Check out www.twitch.tv/theatergeeks on Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
So now we are in the top half.
Yeah.
And we did this on our last list, and we said we were going to do it again, where we are going to try and let the other person guess what the entry is. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and kick off. What is your number 5?
My number 5 is probably, I'm going to give up the ghost pretty much right off the bat. It's probably, when I'm looking at my list, it's probably one of my favorite engine builders.
Is this Flamecraft?
No, I don't consider Flamecraft
It's
an
more
engine
of
builder.
That's fair. Okay. If it's not that, then it's going to be Sentry, I would assume. No. What am I thinking? It's Wingspan.
It's Wingspan. Yeah.
That was your number 9.
Yeah, that was my number 9 last time. I'm excited when there's more Wingspan coming out. Mm-hmm. And I know there is more.
Expansion 4 is coming next year.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because is that Africa?
We don't know yet.
Oh, they still haven't really given up. They haven't
told us.
They haven't given up the ghost on that one either. You'll understand at the end of this episode. I enjoy this engine builder. Part of me almost wishes I didn't have it in the big box because then it'd be easier for me to transport, but I still will.
The nesting box is so easy to just pull what you need out, and you still have the old school plastic trays.
Yeah.
That you just pull out what you need, pop it in a box, and carry.
Right. Go. Yeah. I still might end up just taking the whole nesting box when I go visit people.
That's what I do.
I love it. I just love it. And if you are in this hobby and you've played the game, you know why you love it. You might not be. I'm not great at it.
No, neither am I.
I think I've only won like a handful of times, and I don't care. And that speaks volumes because, you want to have that good experience. And I've had that good experience every single time. Mm-hmm.
So if you have talked to me at Gen Con, then you have almost 100% talked to me about Wingspan. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite stories to tell, we had a game day where we were at some people's house, and I was playing something. I don't even remember what. But a group of people asked me, hey, can you teach us Wingspan? Absolutely, I'm in. I'll do it. They sat there and played the same game of Wingspan for 4 hours. Way too long for a game of Wingspan. But they did it because every time a new bird card came out, they stopped the game, looked up bird facts, and we would just hear like random bird song drifting through the kitchen over to where we were playing because they were having that much fun with it. And at that point, Wingsong didn't exist. Yeah. So they were just looking up.
They're going on YouTube and going to find out these bird sounds.
That's the amount of fun that Wingspan can generate. Mm-hmm. It is my number 21. It has been as high as 9 before, but it is persistently lived in that high, like,
the top 20s,
25,
30s. Yeah.
I mean, it's great. I've talked about it. Oh, I haven't talked about that yet. Episode 15 hasn't come out. You'll hear me talk more about Wingspan, spoiler, I suppose, in episode 15.
Now that they've seen behind the curtain that we do stuff out of order.
Ha! Pretty sure we talked about that before.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Great game. I love it.
Yeah.
Number 5, you have already mentioned. Yes, you have already mentioned it on your list, and you have mentioned it in reference to me.
Libertalia dropped to 5.
Libertalia Winds of Gale Crest did, in fact, drop to 5.
Because, it was 2.
It was 2. It came on the list in 2022. It came on the list at number 2, and it stayed there for a couple of years, and it is down to 5. It is only because the games that have taken over its spot, I have had such good times with this year. Libertalia Winds of Gale Crest is arguably the best second edition of a game ever made as far as a revamp and a smoothing out. Mm-hmm. I think it's gorgeous. I love the bright colors. I really enjoy the world they have created. Mm-hmm. It confuses me, the hatred that the look of the game takes. Absolutely baffles me, but whatever. If you want grimy pirates, go play the old one. It is also one of the few times where when I go back, I hated the first one. I give it like a 4. And then I play this one and I give it a 10. And when I still go back, I'm like, okay, it's just Libertalia, all the things. I still give the original edition a 4. I really dislike original. This game is infinitely replayable. It's not even a matter of modularity. It's just based on the way things are drawn, the way loot tiles can come out, the cards that are drawn off the deck. There's so much that can change from game to game, and those interactions and combos where number 5 may do something completely different with number 12 than it does with number 13. So which way are the cards coming? It's great. It's fast to play. It is relatively inexpensive, especially for how nice it is and the fact it's a Stonemaier game, which have, to be fair, drifted higher in prices recently. I love it. I'm still obsessed with it. If you want to play it right now, I will stop recording to play Libertalia with you.
Oh, right.
It is just dropped to my number 5.
I didn't even think about how, when you're looking at the characters, it makes me interested in the world. I want another game from that world set.
Same.
What is Galecrest?
And I am really worried we're never going to get one, legitimately.
Yeah.
Because the pushback on the art style was so strong, and I just do not understand why.
Probably because they're anthropomorphic.
I don't know.
But that's...
They're sky pirates, man!
Right. It's piracy. Who cares?
Ever since Skies of Arcadia, you can bet that I have loved Sky Pirates.
It's a phenomenal game. Number 4.
Number 4.
I have talked about this game before.
Okay.
This is the first time it has appeared on a top 10 list.
Of any of our lists?
Yes.
Interesting.
How to describe this game? This is another one of those games that I love because it does make me think. It makes the group think. It is a cooperative game. The game itself can get pretty mean. I would love to know why it got picked as a Mensa Select, but it is the first of the series that made me go after the whole series.
This isn't Anomia.
No.
Then I don't know.
Forbidden Desert.
Oh!
It started with Forbidden Island.
Yeah.
Forbidden Desert. Went
Okay.
Forbidden Sky. And then, I don't remember what the fourth one is, but the fourth one came. Jungle. It came back.
I have never played Desert. I have actually only played Island and Skies.
I'm making faces, y'all. Wow. Okay, note to self. Next game that's coming over. What I love the most about this game, and the series of games as a whole, is a continuation of a story. Yeah. You started at the island was sinking, you were able to find a ship, and you went. The ship crashed into the desert, you're trying to rebuild the ship by figuring out where it is on the board. And it's using logic, because depending on how the tiles get moved around as the storm rages, and gets covered in sand, and you're trying to go through tunnels, and trying to get the equipment to protect yourself, and you're trying not to dehydrate, because the sun beats down is a phrase that if my friends Bo and Jonah ever listen to this podcast, I know they will twitch, because there was one time where the sun beat down 3 times. We all lost all of our water at the same time, because in this game, one dies, everyone loses.
Yeah.
You get out of the desert, you take to the air, you end up on a sky platform dealing with the storms to create a rocket. That rocket takes you into space where you land in a jungle. The fact that they continued the same storyline makes me love it more. But it was Forbidden Desert was where I started, because I looked at that little sticker and it said Mensa Select, and I'm like, how are you a Mensa Select game? And then when I played it, I went, yeah, this is one. Until I have more games on my list, it will probably stay in my top 10 for at least another 2 years. Because, holy cow.
You know what else has a Mensa Select? Euphoria.
That's right, it does. It does. I look at that, and it makes me want to see why. So what's your number 4?
So my number 4 is probably the greatest gulf of a opinion in a game that you and I have that you still like. This one, your response hurt me.
Did this game not move on your list from last year?
Only one game on my list has not moved.
Okay, so it's not this one.
It is not that. It is actually gone up.
Is this Obsession?
This is Obsession.
Okay.
So Obsession came onto my list in 2021 at number 29. It has only increased since then, and it is now living at number 4. It is a theme that 5 years ago I would have told you I don't care about. But watching all the movies, being in a stage show, I was Frank Churchill and Emma, doing all the things I have with that Regency period with Natalie has made me really care about this theme. And when you add in the fact that the designer is one of the most genuinely nice human beings in existence, and he has such a dedication to supporting this game, making sure it's correct, making sure that you have a good time with it, and then you actually sit down and you play Obsession. And the game is so smooth on a gameplay level of pick one of your rooms, put a dude on it, pick the people that are going to be taking part in the activity, earn your rewards, repeat. And then you put in phenomenal expansions with it. Upstairs, Downstairs is one of the best expansions any game has ever received. There's the brand new characters expansion that I just got in a month ago that has some of the best metal coins I've ever seen, and just fun little ways to tweak the system. A really great solo mode. If you like hand management, if you like tableau development, and you like worker placement, and you want a game that is just Super Bowl winning Gatorade dump on a coach level of theme, it's Obsession. It is so good. I know you didn't take to it the way I have, but man, Obsession's so good.
I don't remember why I didn't care for it. I think it just didn't do it for me. Not saying it couldn't, or not saying I
You
couldn't
did only play just straight base game.
Right.
And you hear me talk about it a lot, especially in relation to expanded.
Right. And I think that's the thing, is that with only playing base game once, I think that definitely hurt my liking of it. I'm willing to play it again with the expansions in it because, like, we've talked about it before. Tapestry on its whole own, yeah, it's an okay game. It's much better with all the expansions.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Quarter Past for Queen by Midnight is going to do the exact same thing. It's going to be like, this is what we needed. This is what needed to bake. Because I've opened up the box and I know that there's an errata.
Nice. Okay.
They fixed some stuff. So that makes me happy. But still, yeah, I think maybe I will become obsessed with your game. But for shot, no, it didn't do enough for me. Number 3. I don't know why I sang that one. I just had to. I've sang a couple times now.
You have.
It's fine.
I expected that of you.
I mean, and it's late. Y'all need to realize it's like 11. It's 11:30. But who cares? We're talking about board games. You've already said this one. You said this in one conjunction to me, thinking that this is what I was talking about.
Century.
No, Flamecraft.
Yeah. Went up 7 spots.
Yeah. When I sit here and I think about, because I just got to play it, my God, just got to play it about a month ago. Mm-hmm. We had so much fun. I lost. I was in 4th. I didn't care. We had so much fun. It was so much fun to see how much fun my friends were having playing that game. Mm-hmm. They're like, this is so cute. I want this dragon because it's cute.
Yeah.
And it's such a good game. And it's so much positive player interaction. The replayability is so good.
I played it twice 2 or 3 weeks ago. It is the largest interlist drop this year. It went from 25 to 89. No real good reason why. I still love the game.
Yeah.
Flamecraft is great.
What's so funny is the copy I was playing was Jason's copy.
Okay.
Jason had bought it, so he didn't even have everything that I had, and we were still having a great time.
Yeah, he texted me. He's like, "Did you know they have Flamecraft at Barnes & Noble?" I'm like, "I do."
Yeah. And it's almost one of those things that, I love that game enough, and I love Jason enough, I'm almost tempted to hop on their website to get the upgrade packs for him so that he can have just as much of a good time with that game as I do, because it's that good of a game, and he's that good of a friend. Your number 3, sir.
My number 3 is the biggest positive jump back within the top 10.
Okay.
This is one that I played an enormous amount in the middle of the year, and I know we have not gotten to play it together. I think it is the best IP knockoff of anything, and it's also the one that I've condensed from the most boxes into the fewest. I think I have it down into 3 boxes now.
Oh, no. IP knockoff? That throws me. Yeah, you're just going to have to give it to me.
Nemesis.
Oh, okay.
It's Alien.
It is. It's Alien.
Now, you can pick Nemesis or Nemesis Lockdown. If you like Alien, you go OG. If you want Doom 3, then you go for Lockdown. I prefer original. I will happily play either one again, I've said it before, but I will play it at the drop of a hat. I played it 10 times in 10 days this year.
Yeah, and it was in your number 10 spot the last time we did this.
It was. And it has, again, been on the list since I first played it in 2021. It came on as number 6. It went from 6 to 7 to 10, and now all the way back up to 3. Even when I did the list 6 months ago and I was doing my 2024 top 100, I had no good reason of why it dropped to 10 other than I hadn't gotten to play it enough, and other things like Awari had been coming in and getting played a lot. I played it enough this year. It's that strong. Playing through the Untold Stories campaign book was such a fascinating challenge, and so many interesting things come up off of it. It's one of the best games that exist for emergent storytelling. It is memorable every time you play it because something is going to happen. From when I played it solo once and I had both of my characters die at the same time from an event because it's like, it's fine. Nothing will happen if I walk through the slimed room, and I didn't clean them off. And then they had a larva pop in them, and then the next event was the larva explode. Crazy.
That's insane.
And then there's the other stories of people locking people in rooms with the queen or with breeders and shooting off escape pods so that way nobody can get away. Like, there's just so much that game does, and it's big and it's sprawling and there's too many tokens, and I can't think of another game that benefits from all the chrome and all the fluff the way Nemesis does, because it just sucks you in onto the board and you just get lost within whichever ship, the Nemesis or the Ariadne, whichever one you're playing on.
I haven't played that enough. I do enjoy it. Yeah, it's a good game.
Nemesis is very, very good.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Number 2 will shock you.
It might.
Ooh.
Number 2 is one of my newer games.
Okay.
How do I tell you and not tell you? It's one of my favorite headache-inducing games. Past Scott is such a genius.
This is a message from the stars?
It is a message from the stars.
I legitimately believe this was your number 1. Honestly, I thought this was your number 1.
It was very close to my number 1. The reason why it's not my number 1, and I will tell you the reason why, is because my number 1 will be my number 1 for a while. But we've discussed the small problems with A Message in the Stars. That if you don't have a good alien, or for whatever reason, like your scientists are not feeling it, the game can just fall apart. Like, I'm going to go down to Fort Wayne. I'm not going to play this game with my Fort Wayne people. I love them, but they don't brain this way. But I'd say that Past Scott was a genius. When I did the Kickstarter for River Valley Glassworks, Message from the Stars was available to pre-order to come with your Kickstarter. I completely forgot that I had done this. And then we went to Gen Con, and you brought home A Message from the Stars.
Thanks, Jen.
And we played this game. And I threatened you with your life and was a little bummed that you were like, yeah, I like this game enough, I'm not going to give it to you. And I was like, I was really upset. And then I was like, that's fine. And like, you let me borrow it. I took it to Eric, who he'll be on our episode 15, but took it to his place. He had a great time. He's like, man, this is a good game. And, I begrudgingly gave it back. And then like, you got your email saying, hey, River Valley Glassworks is coming in. And I went, that's weird. My River Valley Glassworks, I don't have that email saying it's coming. You received your copy of River Valley Glassworks 2 days before I got mine. And the reason why was because my box also had A Message in the Stars, and I laughed for a good solid 10 minutes.
I believe it.
Because Past Scott was a genius. Because I looked at just what it looked like on that little info that they put in the Kickstarter page and went, that looks like a game that I'm going to love because I love word games. And this is by far the best word game ever.
I can't disagree with that.
Have we talked at length about this game? And what?
Yes. I talked about this in episode 12.
Okay.
This was on Table Shelf and Trade.
Just for the sheer fact of you've got a little Mad Lib, you're trying to give clues, and you're scoring those clues based on what is on the aliens board. I feel for the scientists every time I'm the alien. Because the look of your... we should videotape you as the scientist.
No, we shouldn't.
Because I have watched you go from elated to outright mad, and then you'll send me a word and I'll give you the score. You're like, how? And you'll just yell at me like, how this is, and then you'll start to work it and you're like,
look, that's because we played it at like 2:30 in the morning, but it was after a very bad day for you. And you're like, can we play it? I'm like, fine. And that was rough. And we still got 11 points because you screwed it up, not this guy.
Well, it was because the word that you gave me was so obscure that I didn't know that definition of the word. So you're like, da-da-da-da. I'm like, I have no clue what this means. But yes, this is why Message in the Stars from All Play is number 2. What in the heck is in your number 2?
So my number 2, I have tried to figure out how to say this and how to explain it for months because I knew that we would be doing this list, and I'm like, how do I introduce that my number 1 game is not my number 1 game anymore?
Twilight Imperium is somehow your number 2. Jeez. Oh, okay. Pardon me. I just swore. Twilight Imperium fell to 2. Oh, okay. Because I already wrote down TI, just so you all know that I put Twilight Imperium as his number 1, because Twilight Imperium has been his number 1 for flipping ever.
4 straight years. 2020
God, okay,
to...
So now I'm going to start looking at games, because now I have to figure out what the heck you put as your number 1.
Look.
It's London Necropolis Railway. That's your number 1?
It's a great theme. It is a great theme. Bad game.
It's just a
great
bad
theme.
game.
It's not even a bad game. It's just an expensive game that you can play once, and then you realize, oh, I've played it.
Yeah.
I've played it. I know exactly what's going to happen every time.
Yep.
So, Twilight Imperium 4. I have gushed and all the things about this in text, in video, in audio. You pick a format. I have talked at length about why this game is one of the greatest games of all time. And when I told Natalie that it was dropping to my number 2, even she looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me? It's Twilight Imperium."
I bet she wondered who you were, who had replaced her husband.
It is...
Like, are you a pod person or something?
What allowed it to slide is the fact that this is once a year. It does not happen more than once a year. That once a year
is so good.
Is the best day of gaming in that year. It is so much fun. I mean, it's one that I want to consistently explore. I have a group of people that I know I can get to play it. It requires so much extra logistics that when we are at the table, we all feel how special and unique of an experience and a game that it is, because it's the statement I have given every time I talk about this game of the game itself is just good enough on the table that it elevates what happens above the table to magic. Mm-hmm. Prophecy of Kings is an expansion I would play with every time. It is a game that I never need a 5th edition because we play it once a year. It's Twilight Imperium. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than the fact that it's my number 2 game now.
I have nothing, because I was planning on trying to figure out what the heck your number 2 is going to be, and now I'm sitting here gobsmacked going, the heck is this number 1? But then again, I think you're also kind of going, what's my number 1? Wow. I think you're going to get my number 1 before I get your number 1. I have a small list, I'm guessing.
This was the reaction I was hoping for, but I have known this was going to be the case since sometime in October.
Really? My good. I mean,
I have intentionally not written things on Facebook or in groups that you may see because I didn't want to ruin this surprise.
But you know what? And I'll be honest. The times that we've had conversations, especially talking about, I know, and I should have realized it when you sat there and told me that we weren't doing it this year. It was going to be a totally separate event. It wasn't going to happen at MagWagCon. That's when I should have realized that it had fallen a little bit. Because
that's not even why. It literally is just with that weekend, especially with us being content creators now, we need to play more games. And
dedicating
and we are literally talking about renting a cabin and going and playing Twilight Imperium on a weekend.
I would love it. That'd be great.
I mean, how many games am I going to say, like, yeah, let's go up to Michigan, rent a cabin, and we're just going to play this all day?
Yeah. I mean, as long as we also then take Oblivion on for, and we'll have 2 games that, a whole weekend we've played 2 games. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I'm still reeling from your number 2. I want to know what your short list is for what your guess is as to my number 1.
I mean, it has to be Dice Throne.
It's Dice Throne. Mainly adventures. We sat down, we played Dice Throne, we played it twice, you picked 2 different characters. As much as I love the original intention of the game, and the original intention of the game has a 10. Dice Throne Adventures, which I will bring over here.
I very much want to play it.
Because the monsters are random. Like, it very much feels like putting a cartridge into any random system and having a random dungeon crawl. But the fact of all the mechanics that I love of Dice Throne and how I can upgrade my character and how I can mess with your rolls, and where when we're fighting each other, I'm messing with your rolls. Mm-hmm. Now I can save your rolls. Now I can use my cards that I would use to mess with you, and now I can use them to help you.
When we played and I got to play as Seraph, I even told you that is my play style to a T. I very much like the character. I like what she was doing, how she operated. Again, my favorite character in Sentinels is Fnatic.
Yeah.
I will just play Fnatic every game and be very happy with that.
Yeah.
So when I played her and I was sitting there thinking, I'm still having a bad time because my dice are giving me a bad time. It was very frustrating.
Right.
So
And which
being able to shift that kind of the way we did with Moonrakers
Yes.
of pushing it into co-op with Luminor,
Yes.
I am very excited to see what Adventures can do.
And love it. Absolutely love it. I have played it to completion with its base storyline, so I can upgrade my stuff if I want to. And the fact that, yes, the Kickstarter just finished with the 4 new characters. And, we had talked about it outside of the podcast, being like, oh, it looks like they're just kind of doing it for Dice Throne Adventures. I'm like, well, yeah, kind of, because Dice Throne Adventures hasn't had an upgrade yet. So this is their first upgrade. So yeah, we're getting 4 new characters that we can play in the
I
traditional style.
really want to play the Ravenous. Really a lot.
Between the Ravenous and honestly the Necromancer, those are the two I'm kind of like.
The Necro is the only one I looked at and I'm like, I can pass. The other 3 I really like, but Ravenous is really want to play her.
The Pale Lady is also very interesting to me. I'm digging her. And the fact, I'm still waiting on the X-Men, but that is going to have its adventures side as well. Roxley did great. And if you can get yourself a battle chest, get yourself a battle chest. It's a lot of fun. You're playing Battle Yahtzee. But if you're willing to put the coins to it and you have a group that you want to play with, my God, Dice Throne Adventures is a lot of fun. And that is my number 1. I do have an asterisk because the last time we did this, my number 1 was actually Clue, Master Detective. Decided that is basically my 0.
Yeah.
That is my love of all loves. I will always love Clue. It is my legacy game. It will never leave my collection, as a lot of these things will never leave my collection. But yeah.
I'm legitimately surprised Sentry is not on your top 10.
Sentry would be in that Amorphous Blob of 15.
Sure.
Ooh, it might actually be in my Amorphous Blob of 20.
Okay.
Just because of play more games. I've played more games that do what it does and does it better. And I've even gotten to play games that are actually technically older that I've even enjoyed just as much. So, yeah.
Sentry is 55 on my list.
Okay.
It kind of lives in that high 40s, mid 50s.
It's almost like a coming home game.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah.
So, what's your short list?
So, I definitely don't think it's Root, but Root is on the short list.
It is not Root. Root has actually never been higher than 25.
Okay.
It's 48 this year.
And I don't think that we're going to have another IV game, so I don't think it's Veiled Fate. It's Veiled Fate!
It's Veiled Fate.
It was the first one I actually wrote down, but I didn't trust myself. I'm so mad, because I should have trusted myself. I should have just sat there and went Veiled Fate. Yeah, I totally see why it's your number. I totally see why it's your number 1.
Final Girl, which is the other one on your short list, is at 41.
Okay, because the whole thing is I went Veiled Fate, and I'm like, nah, it can't be Veiled Fate, because we talked about Moonrakers and stuff like that. I was like, wait a second, we talked about Moonrakers. Could Veiled Fate have hit number 1? Because my God, we had a lot, we played a lot of Veiled Fate at Gen Con, and then talked a lot about a Veiled Fate after, and could it actually have hit number 1?
Even losing that game to Austin, one of my all-time favorite gaming sessions memories of all time. And
that's like if you sit there and want to think of like the Inside Out, yeah, that's like Little Ball.
Oh yeah,
My Little Joy is carrying it, going.
Yeah. So I told Natalie, we were walking the dog in sometime in October. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Veiled Fate is beating Twilight Imperium out for my number 1 game now. She's like, huh? And I'm like, because at the end of the day, they are both unique experiences. They are unlike anything else that's out there. I am sorry. I love Eclipse. Eclipse is doing that Gears of War thing where it is like 17, 18, 17, 18. It is constantly in my top 20. I love Eclipse. It is not the same game.
No.
They are vastly different from each other. TI and Eclipse, nowhere near the same game.
Right.
But there is nothing like Veiled Fate.
No.
There's nothing you can even vaguely compare. I had to go to Austin and ask him, how do you elevator pitch this game? And frankly, I wasn't even really a big fan of the way he elevator pitched it because he was going at it from a theme first instead of talking about it in a mechanical way. And it's a tough game to explain. And then you play it and you realize your action pool is the size of a paperclip, but the ramifications of it are the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And
because you are a god and you want your demigod to ascend.
But you can't let anybody know who it is. It is
will tank you.
It is deduction and
Technically hidden
social
movement?
deduction, hidden roles.
Yeah, because it's like it's technically not hidden movement. You're gonna watch me move Clar, but that doesn't mean I'm moving him because he's mine.
Yeah, it is feints within feints within
I'm pulling
feints.
the bag.
And one of the, I believe, fair complaints about IV games is their base games are good but flawed. Moonrakers is phenomenal, but it's flawed. You put in the overload stuff, you put in Nomad, you put in the expansions, and it all just clicks and sings, and it just, Luminor is the solo mode, because the inbox solo mode of Moonrakers, not that good, frankly. Sorry, Austin. Sorry, Max. Sorry, Zach. I don't like that solo mode. But Veiled Fate, with the exception of don't play it with an odd number of people, has no flaws for me as a base game. And then you play it with the expansion, and it's that stupid meme of like the brain exploding in light and color and just like all that. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, but the whole thing is you put in the expansion, and then
And it's all modular.
you can have that odd person out, because the odd person now has
Special
their
roles.
own thing.
It is a beautiful game that is so fun to play. And you actually should have known it was my number one. Not when I told you we were shifting Twilight out, but what was on the table at the photo shoot.
Oh, shut up. How dare you use that like that, you jerk.
Everything, I told you, everything about that photo was intentional. Every single
That's
moment.
funny, because we did that photo shoot September.
Because I knew that's going to be on our website as our primary photo. I got Veiled Fate into the picture.
That is impressive. That is really impressive. Gee, I guess that means the next time we do a photo shoot, I'm going to pull up my Death Throne. Ivy Studios does so many things right. And the fact that, I mean, I don't threaten people that often. I threaten absolute bodily harm to you if I didn't get to play it with you at Gen Con.
And ironically, you did bodily harm to yourself.
And I did do bodily harm to myself because, I get to be put under for it. Long story. Anyway, the fact of the matter is,
And when it comes down to it, if I am looking at Twilight and all the Twilighty things it does, and Veiled Fate and all the Veiled Fatey things it does, I play Twilight once a year. I can play Veiled Fate right now with the two of us and have it be incredible. I can play with 8 people and have it be incredible. I can play that game on any game day with any amount of people.
that's what I was getting ready to say. Was the fact of the matter is you could put Veiled Fate and have 7 different strangers play that game, and the game is going to be good. And everyone would have a decent time playing it.
Yeah.
Where Twilight Imperium, you could have 7 random strangers, and you're not guaranteed that great of a time.
You could.
You could, but I bet you the swing's a little bit higher. I bet someone's going to have a much harder
unless
time.
you are playing it competitively in a tournament, which I never want to do.
Right.
Twilight is let me sit in a room with some of my favorite people all day.
Yeah.
And we'll hate each other through the course of it and then love each other as soon as the game's over.
Yep.
Veiled Fate, I could probably take Veiled Fate home for Christmas and still have it work.
Yeah. Veiled Fate is one of those games. It makes me really bummed that I didn't have the money to take up Ivy Studios on their Black Friday, because that would have been one that I would have bought. Because it's impressive, and because I know none of my Fort Wayne group does not have that game. I don't think I would ever thought of hitting their tables. And I'm going to see them this weekend, and I'm going to be like, y'all.
I will let you borrow it.
Oh. Well,
I never thought Scythe would leave my number 1 spot. It's my 11.
that's true.
I never thought Twilight Imperium would leave my number 1.
Yeah.
I can't say that Veiled Fate will always be my number 1 game, but I can tell you right now, it'll at least be number 2.
I mean,
I don't see this ever leaving the collection. I don't ever see it leaving the top 3.
I think knowing you and knowing how you like your games, especially sitting there talking about Scythe, talking about Twilight Imperium, I'm going to safely say I bet you, unless Ivy Studios comes up with something within the next 5 years, Veiled Fate is going to sit there in that number 1 spot. I'm going to say right now, as of December 5th, because we just switched over to past midnight, December 5th of 2024, 5 years.
I have Fractured Sky coming at the same time as Tribunal.
Okay.
We have Brink coming next year.
Yep.
I love 10. 10 is absolutely top. 10 made it into my top 50.
Oh, 10 made it in my top 50.
But you never know.
if Veiled Fate slides out of number 1, I have a funny feeling it would probably be from another Ivy game because of how good they do things.
I really don't think you're wrong.
It would not surprise me. Here's hoping that I can portend and see into the future that we are looking back at this 5 years from now. And I can imagine if everything happens the way we hope everything happens and, nothing happens to the gaming industry and Ivy Studios is still doing everything that they're doing right now and continue to do it well, I would not be surprised if your top 3 games are Ivy games with just how good they are producing things.
Very possible. So anyways, that's my number 1.
I'm still a little floored because first, Scythe falling out of the top 10, but I'm not surprised. I'm like,
I told you 4 or 5 months ago that's probably going to happen.
Yeah, it's a hard one to get on the table.
It is.
Especially with your group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but TI dropping from 1 to 2. Yeah, that is, but wow. Veiled Fate is number 1. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't be nearly as surprised as with my Dice Throne being as my number 1. Mm. That is really, really interesting.
Well, Bat Family, thank you so much for sticking around with us. It has been just a joy to go through this list. I have loved watching Scott come up into this, paying attention and fighting over, which one should go here? And it's just been such a fun experience watching you kind of grow through the podcast for the last 6 months anyway. And both lists are very definitionally who you are. Mm-hmm. Like I can see either one, your one from 6 months ago or this one, as totally, absolutely valid for you as a person. And it's just been super fun to watch this. I've been doing this for long enough and ranking and sorting and doing all this stuff. But yeah, this episode was a lot of fun to record.
Yeah, going and looking at games and sitting there and seeing it from wanting to take this seriously. I mean, I always take, if I'm going to put any time and effort into anything, I always take it seriously. And especially at the beginning of the podcast, of course, I'm the theme queen. I'm still the theme queen. I still am looking at this more as the consumer and not as how you look at games and stuff like that. But to sit there and go, what do I want on my table? And literally, that's what this list is. This is the top 10 games of what I want to see on my table any given day, any given time. And there's a lot of games that can slide into this list. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to make sure that when I was looking at this list, I wasn't putting as much emotion into it as I normally do. I wanted to put it into that whole, this is a really good game based on what I've been playing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm actually kind of proud of it.
Thank you so much for listening to us. If you'd like to get in touch with Scott and myself or any of the other theater geeks in relation to Board All the Time, you can hit us up at boardallthetimegaming@gmail.com, on Blue Sky at boardallthetime.bsky.social. You can visit us on our website, boardallthetime.com, where we have a newsletter sign-up, feedback form, archive of our episodes, and links to all of our social media, including our Facebook page. You can also join us on our Discord. The server link is in the episode notes. And finally, we'd like to ask that if you enjoy our episodes, please give us the like and follow us on your platform of choice. We know you hear that a lot, but after doing this many episodes, we really do now understand how important it is to help the show grow. Regardless, thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
At this time, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Do you like shiny math rocks? I like shiny math rocks. Go to Robin's Nerd Supplies and use the code TheaterGeeks and receive 10% off your order. Links to the website is in our episode notes. Also, we'd like to thank EcoL Press, a local printing company here in the South Bend area. Happens to be a union shop, and they do everything for your gaming printing needs. And what's so nice is that they're environmentally friendly. You will also be able to check them out in our episode notes.
Well, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, go ahead, hit us up on all the socials and everything. Let us know what your top 10s are. We'd love to have the discussion. As of now, though, Scott, I'm bored of you and worrying about your safety. Get home.
Hey, the weather's not that bad yet. Then again, I don't really know what it's like.
The lights have been flickering.
I haven't been paying attention to that. Shut up. I don't know how quickly I want to like give up the goat, so
Sure.
it's easy for you
Give
to
up the
guess.
goat?
Give up the goat. You've never heard that phrase?
Give up the ghost.
Oh, I've always heard it as give up the goat.
No, it's ghost, because when you give up the ghost, you die.
That makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
This is going to go at the end of this episode, isn't it?
Oh, it might.
Oh, dang it.